DDM 2024.07 sees a number of changes in the load window, a single save window, a clear working folder and the new background file uploader. So let's start with the load window. If I choose this assembly that I'm working on, I'm going to select to open this assembly, and this is the new load window. So most of the options are the same as the previous load window. For example, if you are loading assemblies or any items that have got an old issue, we're highlighting here that this is not the latest issue of this item. We also highlight that if an item is a not recommended item. You have the ability to filter these settings, so if you're working on large structures, I could say only show me not latest issue, not recommended, or see all. So with the not latest issue, I could either take a global choice to say load latest issues, or I could individually select, because here we have a latest issue that is the A.2. Okay. If I choose to load now, it is warning me that I'm loading something that contains a not recommended item. As before, I can leave a window on the screen post load. So it's now loaded my assembly into SolidWorks or into my CAD application. And if I'm just going to minimize this window I have here. We can see here that this is the item within my structure that was not recommended. So this new load window, the single save window, and the clear working folder specifically relate to SolidWorks and Solid Edge. For the previous applications, the existing integrations still apply. We are working our way through, and ultimately we will replacing the interface for Creo, IronCAD and Inventor as well. So I've got this assembly that I'm working on. If I choose to save my assembly, we can see here that we've limited the number of options on the DDM menu within your CAD application. There's a save option, a save copy as, and a save all configurations. If I choose to save this assembly, the new single save window, we get a progress here. So the items in green are the actions that are being carried out. We then get what we call our single save window, that unlike the previous integration, we now see the structure of what we're saving. Now I haven't made any changes to my assembly since I loaded it, so all I'm seeing here is the option to overwrite the parent assembly. Okay, now these are released items apart from this part down here. Okay, so if I cancel my save, let's say I'm still working on this assembly, this part. If I open this in its own window, let's say, well, I'm changing this up to a 15mm radius. Okay, I'm going to accept my change, regenerate. I've got a bigger radius now. So if I go back, keep the changes in my assembly. If I now choose to save, what it will do now is it will highlight the items that have changed that need to be saved back to DDM. So as we can see here, we need to update this part and we need to overwrite it. I have permission to overwrite because it's work in progress and it is reserved by me. Now I have an option switched on here to include drawings. And therefore every time I save a part, if the part has changed, it will automatically load and save the drawing for me so that the drawing is correct. Okay, so there's lots of options in this new single save window. The first one, if I go to options here, we can change the highlighting colours if we want to. Okay, we've got some defaults as to what should happen when we save a drawing automatically related to the parts. We also have the ability to show a save summary after the save is finished, and we can turn this on and off. I'm going to leave it on for now. So the other options we've got here is to only show the items that require saving. So if I switch this on, it's only displaying the items on the screen where we need to make a decision. Okay, the include drawings can be turned on and off, but if you're saving a part, that's typically because you've changed the geometry and therefore you should always update and save the drawing. Okay. We can expand, contract, so there's ways of looking at this information. We also have the ability here to toggle on and off thumbnail images, neutral files. Now the neutral files will be based on whatever is configured in your admin client. We can also turn on the mask properties on and off. Some businesses don't use mask properties and there is an overhead on the save, so this can be turned on and off. If I now choose to save, we get a progress window. So previously you would just get a blue torus spinning, whereas now we can see what's happening during the save process. We can clearly see it's in progress and the entire save took 2 minutes and 17 seconds. This summary window, and I will just maximize the window here, we can see exactly what's been happening in terms of all the different updates, generating a step file, PDF, updating the bill of materials. So it's a really good way of seeing what's actually happening during the save. And at the bottom half of the window we can see how long each part of the save took. So in this case, generating the CAD neutral files was 2.15% of the overall save time. I'm going to close this now and I'm going to do the save again, but this time I'm just going to say OK save. So it's only saving, so unless you're having to make decisions, all we're doing is say go and save it. Okay, and again the update, so 14 seconds to save this away. Now the next thing I want to do is to choose a numbering for a new drawing. So I'm going to create a drawing for this assembly. Okay, I'm going to choose my DDM A3 drawing format and I'm just going to have a simple drawing with 3 views, like so. I'm going to put a single dimension on, like so, and we need to save our drawing away. As you can see, there's no drawing number an issue. All of the mapping between the CAD application and DDM is exactly the same as it was previously. If I now save my drawing, again using the single save option, I pick up the file and I get my single save window. Let me just minimize this now. Okay, so in the single save window we can see our assembly here and we can see the new drawing that we are saving. If I click into the number here, I have the option of saying, well, I want manual number so that it keeps the number the same as the parent, or you could have it differently if you have multiple drawings to the same part or assembly. Another option that is new here is just a default to use the parent number or assembly, like so. The description, I can just click in the cell to modify these things, so I don't have to open the properties dialog for each individual item on a save. If I want to edit the category, I can either select this and choose the category icon on the menu bar, or I can just do a second click in the field and it will load my category browser and I choose to save it away. In this window you can also switch on attributes that you might want to save, custom attributes, etc. So the ability to modify this save window to include your own attributes. And as you can see here, attributes that are compulsory are highlighted in yellow. So I'm now going to save. It's prompting me because I haven't chosen the folder that I'm going to reserve my new drawing to. So we get the reserve reference dialog. I'm just going to reserve this to my workbench and it will save my drawing away. And again, we get this progress window where it's showing us what's actually happening. Okay, so 1 minute 47 seconds. Okay, The next change that I want to make, I'm going to go back to assembly mode. In fact, I can close my drawing. I go back to assembly mode. This time, I'm going to do something slightly different to demonstrate some of the real power of this single save environment. Now, I'm currently working on a specific assembly in all of its child parts. If I wanted a new housing and drawing, a new shaft and drawing, and a new assembly and drawing, but the bearing is staying the same, then I can select all of these items and choose to save these as brand new parts and drawings. So as you can see, it's cleared the numbers. I have them all multi-selected. I can reserve all of them in one go. I'm going to reserve all of it to my workbench. I'm going to use auto numbering for all of the parts, and I'm going to say make the drawing the same as the parent part or assembly. I can also set categories, so the ability to single and multi-select in this window and then choose what your option is, really quite powerful compared to the previous version. Again, I've got thumbnails, neutral files. I can turn mask properties on if I need to, and all I now do is say I want to save it all away, and that will now create me a new assembly drawing, part drawing, etc. So we've updated 6 new files. We've created PDF and step files where necessary. We will update the bill of materials, and the whole save for all of that only took 1 minute and 40 seconds. Okay, and that save dialog, once you're used to it and you're happy with it, if I just run one more save here now, you can say, well, once you're familiar with the save process, we can choose for that save summary not to appear at the end. Personally, I quite like it to be there because I know the save is finished. However, if I turn that off, as soon as our save is finished, this status window will disappear. So I know the save has finished. Okay, so the next thing we want to look at is the new background file uploader. Especially useful if you are on a wide area network working from home or remotely, and you are on a limited performance network. In order to demonstrate this, what I'm going to do is move SolidWorks. Let me just do this. I'm going to move SolidWorks to this side of my window. Okay, and what we have down in the system tray now is this DDM file uploader. Now normally you would just leave this minimized in the system tray, and what this does is when the save process has finished, okay, if I go into save mode here, so just so that the save takes a little bit longer, I am going to choose all of my work in progress items, and I'm going to say I want to overwrite all of them, and we'll say OK. As soon as the save has finished, DDM will hand the files to the background file uploader, which means that the user does not have to wait for the files to be pushed back to the server. So I can carry on working, and as you can see, files are still uploading in the background. Okay, so effectively when you're doing a save, we've eliminated the network performance because it happens in the background. Okay, let's go back to full screen again. The final thing I want to cover is if I close this because I finished my save, the new clear working folder. Now I've set it as an icon on my SolidWorks toolbar here. If you go into DDM here, it's the clear working folder icon. For anybody who's not familiar, on your client PC there will be a working folder that contains all of the files that you've currently been working on. If I choose clear working folder now, this window understands if anything has not been saved back to DDM. This is all highlighted in green, and therefore I know that it's safe for me to remove these files from my local computer. So I'm going to clear the working folder. Okay, now let's do another exercise where if I load my assembly again, I'm going to reload my assembly, and we say load. Yes, okay, happy I know about that. So we've reloaded our assembly, and what if I modify this part again, as in it's locally modified? So if I modify this locally, we've clearly changed it. I'm going to do a local save, and I'm going to close this, save it back to my assembly, but I'm not going to save it back to DDM. If I close this window and say yes, save all, and that is just saving it to the local computer. So there's a couple of things we want to look at. If I go back in and reload my assembly, we'll see here that the assembly has got a later local file version. So we're highlighting the fact that you already have this file in your working folder, and the local one is later than the one that you're trying to load. So if you look in the first column here, DDM is not going to load the files and overwrite what is in my working folder. Okay, so if I say load, again, that's the warning about the not recommended. That's fine, it's just telling me what's happening. And if I load this, I have not lost the changes that I'd made locally. You can override that if that's what you want to do. So we still haven't saved this back to DDM. If I close this again and try and clear my working folder, it's highlighting the fact that this assembly and this part have not been saved because they are modified locally. So it's much safer than the previous clear working folder. If you do choose to clear working folder, it's warning you 2 of the files have not been saved to DDM. What will also happen is, if you have a file, let's just create a new part in SolidWorks. So if I create a new part like this, something really simple, like so. So I've created a new part, and I'm just going to save it locally, and I'm going to call it part 3. Okay, if I close it out and I try and clear my working folder, what I now have are 2 files that have been modified locally and 1 file that is not known to DDM. What we've added to this window is the ability for you to reopen these files from this window if you need to. Okay, so I'm not going to do that because I am going to force clearing the working folder. But what we've done, in case you do remove files that you have not saved, in order that you don't lose your work, we keep a backup copy of the working folder for either a fixed amount of space on your disk or for a number of days. We can clear the backup folders, we can also open the backup folder. So a much more intelligent and fail-safe version of the clear working folder. I am going to clear this, and I'm going to force a clear, but I know I have those files in the background, and I've only done that for demonstration purposes. So a much more intelligent load window. The caching has also been improved. The speed and the performance of the local file caching is much quicker. The single save window is much more visual, much easier to use, and much more powerful with all of the single and select options for all of the additional things that we do as part of the save process. And of course the clear working folder and the background file uploader. Fantastic enhancements to DDM 2024.07, currently available in SolidWorks interface and Solid Edge interface, and we are working through the CAD interface, the Inventor interface, and the Creo parametric interface.